Hello class, my name is Brittney Idehen, and my favorite piece that I wrote in this semester is Idi's Black Barbies. She thought black women were beautiful. When I was younger, I lived in a neighborhood called Bushwick. I lived there with my mother and my older sister. We moved when I was 11 years old. Most of my neighborhood was Puerto Rican and Dominican. There were some black people in Bushwick, but we weren't the majority. I didn't mind though. I loved living in Bushwick. Growing up in Bushwick, I spent most of my time hanging out with my sister's friend, Miguel. Miguel had two younger sisters that I would always play with when we went to their house, so much that they were like family. Her younger sisters were named Crystal and Nina. Their family lived a lot like mine. She had siblings, their mother was strict and religious, and they weren't rich, but they weren't broke. They were in the middle, just like my family. The girls even had a set of rules to follow that were similar to mine. Although the lives we lived were almost identical, we weren't exactly the same. Miguel's family was Puerto Rican, and her sisters had light skin and loose curly hair that I wanted very badly when I was their age. They never said anything bad about my hair or skin. They cried when their mother did their hair just like I did. I just saw it everywhere I went, and I always felt like it was beautiful. I hated wearing braids because they made me look too black. I hated going out in the sun because I got even darker. I hated when we went to the sprinkler or the pool and I couldn't get my hair wet. I hated saying, "'cause my mom said no," whenever they asked why not. I was 9 years old, and I did not think black was beautiful. Maybe I thought Tyra Banks was beautiful because she had light skin and light eyes, but I didn't think that my kind of black was beautiful. Our families were very close, and very often we would go to our families' houses together. One day, her mom drove us all to Coney Island to hang out with her sister Rosa. Rosa had two kids. Their names were Arianez and Travis, and they were both in their teens, like Miguel and my sister. Everyone usually called Rosa's daughter Ari. My sister hung out with Ari, and Crystal followed them around because she was 2 years older than us and didn't want her cool older cousin seeing her as a baby. I thought that Ari was cool just like Crystal did. She had long curly hair that was even longer than Crystal and Nina's. She was pretty, funny, and was really loud. She would sing all the time, but no one ever seemed to mind because she was a very talented singer. Even though I thought Ari was really cool too, I didn't care if she thought that I was a little kid. I was, and I wanted to play. Nina and I took off our shoes and slid on the shiny living room floor and our socks until we got bored. "We can ask if Adi got toys," Nina said. Even though I didn't care if she thought we were childish, I thought that asking her for toys was ridiculously silly, and I was embarrassed to ask her. "Why would she have toys? She's a big kid," I asked. "I know she does. Look, watch," Nina answered. She walked over to her cousin's door and knocked. Adi opened the door and greeted us, loud and friendly. Nina asked if we could play with her toys, and she waved us in and opened a bin of Barbie dolls. We were excited and curious. She had at least 50. By habit, I found a lighter doll, and I noticed a few black dolls that weren't in the bin. All of her dolls were definitely not new, except for 3 dolls that she kept on a shelf. They were brand new and still in the box. I asked, "What are those?" "My Destiny's Child Barbies. You know I love y'all, but you can't play with those. Those are special," Adi said. "What do you mean?" I said, confused. "I love Destiny's Child. They're my prettiest dolls, and they were hard to find. I want to keep them just like that, but y'all could play with these too if you want." She pulled out a second chest with slightly newer dolls, but I did not care about new dolls anymore. I was confused and amazed. Adi had perfect skin and perfect hair, and she thinks that black women are so beautiful that she keeps her dolls in their box so that they could stay perfect. I wondered, why would she do this when they're not as pretty as people that look like her? Adi probably doesn't know it, but this day changed me. Adi thinking that black women were beautiful wasn't weird. She found beauty in Destiny's Child the same way I found beauty with lighter-skinned women in my neighborhood. It wasn't until years later when I fully unlearned all of the negativity that I felt about my blackness. As an adult, I'm grateful that I'm black, and I couldn't imagine being anything else. Sometimes I so dislike my black nose, but I'm still proud of the progress that I've made because there was a time that I hated all of my black features. I thank stars like Lupita Nyong'o, Beyonce, and Naomi Campbell for the reason my thoughts about my blackness did a 180 turn. They make being black look beautiful and amazing, and it is. But first, I also have to thank Adi and her black Barbies. My creative process over the semester, and something I could introduce about my portfolio, is that all of my stories are usually things that have happened to me or my family. A challenge that I have faced is that sometimes while I'm writing, I'll wonder how will people feel when they realize that I'm like writing about them and using their real name, their real neighborhood. And that sometimes that makes me feel like I should probably think about something else, but I never do because it's always, the real stuff is always the best thing I can think of, and I never regret picking what I wrote about. I've learned that when I use real names instead of changing them, I feel like it makes the story more vivid in my mind. Like, I remember one time I tried to change a name and then it wasn't as interesting, but the more I wrote and I used like real names and descriptions, I could remember being a kid again and feeling like I remembered everything that happened. Like, for example, the manifesto, I wrote about friends that my mom had in my life and how I didn't like them and how they were all, maybe they were nice, maybe they were mean. I just didn't like them because I wanted my mom to myself all the time. In the story, Adi's Black Barbies, I think I changed one thing. My sister was 17 and she was best friends with someone in her 30s, and I couldn't really explain their friendship because of the age gap, so I made it as if Mige was also my sister's age, but really, she was not Crystal and Nina's sister. She was Crystal and Nina's mother. When I revised my pieces, I read it out loud and I record myself before I submit it, because when you read it out loud, that's when you hear all of the like grammatical errors. You realize maybe you said a word too many times. And when I do that, that's when I realize I shouldn't say she was very, very sad. I should say she was devastated. And that has usually worked so far. Another problem that I faced this semester was when I was writing a story called Ham and Gravy. And I was wondering if it was my place to write a story about a culture that wasn't mine, because sometimes I get really annoyed if someone would say something about black people and they would say, but I have black friends and I have a black teacher, and they think that that excuses them. So I didn't want to be that same person that was like, well, I have a Latinx friend, so I should be able to write about this. So I did, to the best of my ability, write a story that I wanted to make accurate. I would have called my friends and I asked them, when it's Thanksgiving morning, what do you listen to? What are your family like? So I could still make an accurate story that wasn't just from maybe one Latinx family that I know. I was wondering if maybe I would offend someone. Maybe someone would think that it's not accurate. But in the end, I decided to continue with the story, and I didn't regret that decision. In one of my stories called The Three-Legged Giraffe, I did not use real names or the real doctors' names because I was trying to use symbolism like the assignment said. But it was when I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease and the doctor didn't believe me, so I tried to tell the story, but I was using it as a animal that was trying to get help from the other animals, but he was seen as inferior.